All right, so our question says the heart pumps blood around the body. The natural resting heart rate is controlled by a group of cells. What is the name of this group of cells? Do you remember I mentioned it? You asked me about it and then I mentioned it to you.
Pacemakers.
Yeah, the pacemaker of the heart. Exactly. Okay. Figure 5 shows the heart. What is the name and function of part C?
Valves.
Yes.
Those are
Yes.
to prevent the bad flow of blood.
Yes, they prevent the backflow of blood. You can call them, it's better if you give their name. When you're giving the name, you can call them atrioventricular valves. Atrio from the atrium, ventricular from the ventricle. So atrioventricular valves, and the function is to prevent the backflow of blood. Now, they're saying blood returns from the lungs to the heart in blood vessel A. Okay? Blood moves through the heart and leaves through blood vessel B. Describe how the blood is moving from A to B through the heart. You should include the names of the blood vessels and the chambers of the heart that the blood passes through. And this is for 5 marks. Okay. Now, okay. So now this is your question. If possible, Isma, can you please take a screenshot of this diagram so you can see what blood vessel A and B is?
Okay. Done.
All right. Now this is your question. Okay. So would you be able to answer this? Do you want me to go over the question with you, or it's okay, you can answer this? Or you would like to attempt it?
I would like to attempt it.
All right, perfect. So go ahead. I'm giving you 4 minutes for 5 minutes, okay? Please type out the answer for this in the chat so I can check your formatting as well. And then we can discuss it.
I sent it.
Perfect. Let me just go through your answer. The pulmonary veins carry oxygenated blood towards the heart. The left atrium contracts to push the blood down the left ventricle with the help of valves, which prevents the backflow of blood. The aorta then carries the blood to each of the seats of the body. You're right, but one small thing that you forgot to mention, the semilunar valves, right? In both the pulmonary artery, I'm so sorry, not the, yeah, the pulmonary artery and the aorta, right? They both have semilunar valves. If you remember, I had mentioned to you that there are valves in the arteries as well. And the reason we have those valves is to prevent the blood from falling back into the ventricle. So that is the one point that you missed, that the pulmonary, semilunar valves in the aorta will close to prevent the backflow of blood. But other than that, your answer is perfectly correct. Okay, now the question says, blood pressure is the force of blood on the walls of blood vessels. Blood passes through three types of vessels, X, Y, and Z. Figure 6 shows the changes in blood pressure after it leaves the heart. Which type of blood vessel is X? So if you look, you'll see that X has the highest blood pressure, then it's lesser in Y, and Z has the lowest blood pressure. So we have three types of blood vessels I've taught you: artery, vein, and capillary. So what do you think X is? Is it an artery, a vein, and a capillary? And can you give me a reason for it?
It's artery.
It's an artery, right? And what's the reason for it?
Because it has like thick walls to resist
Yeah.
the blood pressure.
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, that is fine, because an artery tends to have a higher blood pressure inside it because it's carrying the blood from the heart to the rest of the body, right? So it tends to carry, or it tends to have a higher blood pressure. That's why this is probably X. This X is probably an artery. All right. Hold on. Give me 1 second. I have another question to share with you. Just 1 minute. All right, so our question says, this question is about blood. Complete the sentence. The liquid part of the blood is called what?
Plasma.
Cells suspended in the liquid part of the blood include red blood cells and?
White blood cells.
Yes, absolutely correct. The waste substance is transported by the blood from the liver to the kidneys is?
Urea.
Urea. The waste substance transported in the blood from the body organs to the lungs is,
Carbon dioxide.
what is the function of red blood cells?
To transport oxygen to the organs.
Yes. A boy falls over and cuts his knee. Explain the steps which take place to form a clot over the cut. Please type out the answer in the chat. This is for 5 minutes.
Fibrogen is a protein, right? Or
Yes, fibrogen is a protein.
and fibrin too, yeah.
Fibrin is also a protein. Both of them are proteins. Fibrinogen is generally soluble, like it's found in the blood in a dissolved form. Fibrin is insoluble. They are both proteins. It's just that one is dissolved in blood and one is insoluble.
I'm not sure about it, but yeah.
That's all right, no problem. Let me go ahead and go through it. All right. There are a few points in your answer are fine. There are a few points that you can correct. Now, first thing is first, what is going to happen is that the platelets do not form a web. Okay. The platelets will stick together to form a clot, or to plug the wound. Okay. Now, what is going to happen is this, that they also release an enzyme. They also release an enzyme that converts prothrombin. If you remember, I told you two pathways, prothrombin to thrombin, right?
Yeah.
Then what will happen? Thrombin will convert fibrinogen into fibrin. The fibrin fibers, right, will form a meshwork. Fibrin fibers will form a meshwork that will trap platelets, red blood cells, and help make the clot. All right. So initially, just the platelets will stick together. They just want to stick together, so they can prevent blood losses. Just stick together, and they make like a small, tiny clot. But that is not the main clot. The main clot is formed with the help of fibrin. They release an enzyme that converts prothrombin to thrombin. And thrombin will then convert fibrinogen into fibrin. Fibrin will come together like fibers, like threads that will join together to make a meshwork. And that meshwork, that net, will trap all the platelets and the red blood cells, and it will help make the actual clot that is going to eventually turn into a scab, like you said, and it will help plug the wound.
So the
Yeah.
enzyme, the enzyme like basically does all the work.
Yeah, yeah. Basically, the process of clotting you are studying is like a quite simple process. It is actually much, much, much complicated. There are a lot of different proteins in our body. We call them clotting factors that help in the process. So this is actually literally like a domino effect or a cascade. Okay, it all starts from one small enzyme, and that one small enzyme triggers a series of reactions, and those reactions keep on triggering each other, and that is how we ultimately get the final clot. That is the entire process. In fact, when like if you decide to pursue your medical sciences, if you decide to pursue this at a graduation level, you will study that it is actually the entire word, like the name of the process is known as a clotting cascade, because it's literally like a domino effect. One thing starts it, and that triggers another and another and another and another, and finally the clotting in the body happens. So you're absolutely right. It's just one enzyme that starts the entire process and makes everything happen. All right, now they're saying, hold on, this is not related to this. This is related to, okay, we can do this. Students in a school investigated the effect of the level of exercise on heart rate. This is the method they used. Select 6 volunteers randomly from the school. Ask volunteers to sit on a low bench for 10 minutes. Measure and record the heart rate of each volunteer. Ask each volunteer to step up, onto, and down from the bench 5 times. Measure and record their heart rate. Allow the volunteers to rest. Repeat steps 4 to 6, 10, 15, and then 20 step-ups. Calculate a mean heart rate for the 6 volunteers at each level of exercise. Now, our first question says, give the dependent variable in this investigation. Let me introduce you to experimental questions. Experimental questions generally will ask you regarding 3 variables. What are the 3 variables that your experimental questions will ask you? Independent variable, dependent variable, and control variable. What is an independent variable? An independent variable is the variable we can control. A dependent variable is the variable we can measure. Let me explain. The independent variable is the variable you are studying, the variable that you can change. What am I studying over here? I am studying the effect of level of exercise. So what is in my control? As the person, as the researcher, what can I control? I can control the level of exercise. I can control how many step-ups they do, right? That is in my control. I can choose. So in this experiment, I chose 5, 10, 15, 20. That this is how many times they will repeat the exercise. Who chose it? Me. I chose it, right? This is the independent variable. The dependent variable is what we measure. What are we measuring? We're measuring the people's heart rate. Okay? Generally, when a statement is given to you like this, investigated the effects of, okay? So whatever is written over here, effect of, whatever they have written first, that is the independent variable, and whatever they have written after, that's the dependent variable in the statement, okay? The effect of what? Whatever is written, that is your independent variable. On what? That is the dependent variable. That is a shortcut method that I'm telling you, a quick way of figuring it out. So when you're reading the question, effect of what? Whatever is written after the effect is your independent variable. Then it will say on. Whatever is written after on is the dependent variable. So over here, the level of exercise is the independent variable. That is what I am trying to study. I am trying to study the level of effect of exercise. This is the variable I can control. I can control how much exercise my volunteers are doing. What am I measuring? Heart rate. I can't control their heart rate, but I can measure the heart rate. And the heart rate depends upon the exercise. That's why we call it dependent variable, because the heart rate depends upon the exercise. So that's the dependent variable. The third variable we have is a control variable. What is a control variable? Any other variable that can affect your study is known as a control variable. For example, in this particular scenario, the control, okay, now in this particular scenario, what do I want to study? I want to study the level of exercise on heart rate. Okay, now let's say you are the one doing this experiment. You do the experiment and you come up to me and you say, Miss, I did the experiment and I saw that when I made them do more vigorous exercise, for example, or like when they were doing more step ups, the heart rate was higher. Now I look at the results and I say, but Ismat, how can you be sure? I mean, you say that the heart rate was higher because of higher level of exercise. That's when you made them do more exercise, their heart rate was higher. But the people you have taken, they're all completely different from each other. These people, half of these people suffer from high blood pressure, half of them don't. Half of the people you have chosen, they are extremely obese. How do you know that the result you got was not because half of them were obese? Maybe that's why you got the results, right? Maybe that's why you got those results. Maybe that's why they had a higher heart rate. Or maybe they had a higher heart rate because they have higher blood pressure. They have a history of diabetes. So all of these factors can affect the heart rate, right? So when you are doing the experiment, you want to make sure that you keep all these factors the same. So you come up to me and you say, Miss, all of the people had the same lifestyle. All of these people, they had the same BMI or whatever, you want to choose. All of these people were in the same age group as well. I made sure. All of these people are non-smokers, right? All of these people are, they do not suffer from any, you know, history, any medical history. They're completely healthy people. So what have you done? You have controlled every other variable that can change your result. Any other variable that can affect heart attack, you've controlled it. Obesity, you controlled it. Age, you controlled it. Diet, you controlled it. Lifestyle, you controlled it. right? If you want your experiment to be reliable, you want your experiment to be valid, that's the term we use. If you want your experiment to be valid, you have to make sure you control any other factor that can affect your results. Okay? Any other factor that can affect your results, you have to control it. This is not just for IGCSE, this is for every single research that you might do in your future. Even if you're standing at a PhD level and you're performing your research, this is something that you have to do. Anything else that can affect your data, it needs to be controlled. The only thing that should be different is what you're studying. So I'm studying level of exercise, that's the only thing that should be different. Anything else that can change the heart rate of the person should be controlled. It should be kept the same. All of them should be exactly the same, right? So this is known as the control variable. So in every single experimental data, there are three variables: independent, dependent, and control. You have to take a look at all of them. So in this question, the dependent variable is heart rate. So that's the answer for part one. Then they're saying give two control variables that the student should have used in their investigation. So now, what do you suggest? What can be the two control variables that I should keep the same? I should make sure all 6 people are the same.
Wait, can it be like type of exercise, like the same type of exercise?
Yeah, you're right. It should be the same type of exercise, but that is already mentioned. They are all doing the same type of exercise.
The age.
The age. All people should be of the ideally the same age, or at least they should be in the same age group. Correct. What else?
The weight.
Their weight should be the same. Perfect. Then you can also say their fitness level, their diet, their lifestyle, all of these, their gender. Gender also has an effect on heart rate. So you can mention these factors. Now, they're saying the student could not measure the heart rate using electronic monitors. Describe another method the students could use to measure the heart rate. Can you think of a method that you, if you were the one doing this experiment, how would you measure the heart rate?
Count them, like when you put your fingers in your wrist and then count them.
You're right. Just elaborate on that. Yeah. So you would you would place your hand right on the person's wrist where their artery is, and you would place their on their wrist, and you would count the number of pulses that you can feel in 60 seconds, right?
Yeah.
And that will be your heart rate. All right. Table 2 shows the results. Okay, Isma, do you happen to have a graph paper with you?
Graph paper?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, all right, fine. Can you annotate on the screen? You can draw on the screen as well.
Yeah, I can.
All right. So this is your table in front of you. Do you want to take a screenshot of the table?
Okay. Okay.
All right. Now this is your graph sheet. Let me tell you, in a graph paper, first of all, let me give you the basic concept of how you go about drawing a graph. What are the examiners going to be looking for you when you're drawing your graph? Number one, they want you to label your axis. Okay. So on the x-axis, for example, if you have heart rate, or on the x-axis, yeah, if you have heartbeat, then please write down heartbeat and then write down the unit as well. So the unit is beats per minute. Okay. On the x-axis, you will write down number of steps. Then you have to draw your scale. Okay. The scale, please remember, always choose a scale that covers. So when you draw the graph, you need to cover at least 3/4 of the graph sheet. If your graph is extremely small, they will deduct marks for it. Your graph needs to cover at least 3/4 of the graph sheet. So try to choose a scale that will cover, like all of the x-axis or all of the y-axis. Or at least 3/4 of the x-axis and y-axis you should utilize. That is point number 2. Then point number 3. always you will obviously be marked on your plotting. Then point number 4, draw a line of best fit. Now, over here, students often get confused, okay? Because when you're drawing a line of best fit, they think that a line means a straight line. Please keep in mind that a line does not mean a straight line. A line can be curved as well. If you feel like the plotting would fit a curve better, please draw a curve. Because oftentimes I've had students, because it says draw a line of best fit, so they try to fit everything into a straight line. You don't need to do that. Okay? You have to make a curve. If you think the diagram shows a curve, draw a curve. Do whatever your data shows. Always do whatever your data shows. So if your data shows a curve, you will draw a curve. If it shows a straight line, draw a straight line. So these are the things you will be marked at. 5 marks from the question. First thing you'll be marked is the labeling. Second thing you'll be marked at is your scale. Third thing you'll be marked at is your plotting. Fourth thing that you will be marked at is your line of best fit. And the fifth thing that you are going to be marked at as is overall regarding your graph. Okay.
But
So
isn't
keep,
line of best fit like usually straight, like straight?
it does not have to be. Again, it does not have to be. Depends upon your question. Okay. That's exactly why I mentioned this, because students have actually done this where it's clearly a curve and they try to join it with straight lines. If it looks like a curve, then please draw a curve. A line
So
of
when
best
do
fit,
we do
yeah.
straight? When do we do the straight line then?
You will always look at your plotting. You will always look at so after you plot the data, you will look at it, right? If you can join all the points by drawing a straight line, then draw a straight line. But if it seems like you can't join them with a straight line, then join them with a curve. All right. It depends upon your data. It depends upon what is the plotting that you will do, right? Try over here, try the plotting first. Label both the x's, okay? Draw a scale. After drawing the scale, do the plotting, and then I will teach you, or I will tell you exactly how you can look at the plots and figure out whether it will be a straight line or a curve. Okay? And if you want me to go over any of this with you, like any part that's not making sense, let me know. I can go over this with you as well.
I take a screenshot and then draw it and then I'll send you, yeah?
All right, great. Go on.
I have sent.
Let me go ahead and take a look. All right, let's see. All right, you have written mean heart rate per minute. Yes, number of step-ups. All right, scale you have chosen is 25. Okay, so the scale you require is actually from 0 to 175.
I'm not sure about the scaling.
No, the scale is actually all right. As long as you're covering more than half of the x-axis and y-axis, your scale is okay. Ideally, do try a scale that will allow you to cover at least like half of the graph sheet. That's what you should try. But in case you cannot, at least 3/4, right? Like you should try, sorry, you should try for a scale that covers at least like all of it, right? But if you can't figure it out, it's fine. At least 3/4 or half of it, more than half of it, should be covered. So you have got more of half of it covered, so that's fine. That is acceptable. Just to give you an idea of, okay, just to give you an idea, your scale is not incorrect. Already, so let me point it out. But just to give you an idea, you could have also done it like this. 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, 120, 140, 160, 180, 200. All right. But what you have done is also completely correct. What you've done is not incorrect. It's fine. But you could have also done something like this if you wanted.
So, for example, where would
Yeah.
where would the 70 fall? Like the number 70.
Between, okay, so 170 would be like over here, right in the middle. I'm sorry, not over here. Over here. Between 160 and 180 in the middle. Right? So then 10 would be in the middle, halfway. Halfway 10, 20. Then 30 in the middle over here. Then 40, then 50 in the middle over here. Then 60, then 70 in the middle of here. Then 80, like this. Right? So this is how you could have done it as well. But what you have done is also completely correct. It's not incorrect. It is correct. I was just presenting you with an alternative. All right, now let me check your plotting. So we have 0 is 98, which is, that's fine, I think. Then we have, because for the scale you have chosen, it's also a bit harder to know exactly where to place the point, right?
Yeah.
On that, yeah. If you use a bigger scale, it's also a bit easier to figure out where to put your points. All right. So then we have 5 is 143. All right, that's fine. 125, 130, 135, 140. Okay, this is fine. And then we have 161, so 155. All right. And then we have 174, which is, yes, over here. And this is also all right. Perfect. This is fine. Now, in this particular, look at the plotting that you have, right? If you try to connect this with a straight line, would you be able to draw a straight line through it?
No.
No, right? So in this case, you want to draw a curve. Oftentimes, like, because I have had students that have given me graphs like this, right? Because they think that a line of best fit means a line. So they will, draw lines like this. And they'll try to, connect it all up with straight lines like this. So this is obviously incorrect, right? This is going to be a curve. That's one point I want to clarify, that a curve of best fit never means what? Sorry, a line of best fit never means that draw a straight line. It simply means make a line that fits your results the best. And that line can also be a curve. All right. Now, give the conclusion that can be made about the effect of level of exercise on the heart rate. Use data from table 2. What do you think? If you look at table 2, what do you think is the effect of exercise on the heart rate?
The more the number of step-ups, the more
Yeah,
heart per
heart
minute.
beats. Yeah, correct. The higher the heart rate per minute. You are absolutely right. Then this is for 2 marks. To add another statement.
Another statement. Mm, And the heart rate gets constant after 15 and 20 step-ups.
Yes, that is correct. Good. All right. Let's take a look at another question. One second, please. All right, so our question says figure 11 shows the human heart. What is the main type of tissue found in the wall of the heart? What do you think? What is the main type of tissue that we can find in the wall of the heart?
Isn't it pacemaker?
No, okay. Pacemaker is just a group of the cells that is responsible for controlling the heartbeat. The main type of tissue found in the wall of the heart are muscles. Remember, I mentioned to you that the walls of the heart are extremely muscular. The left side is more muscular than the right side because the heart has to contract. So it requires muscles. And draw arrows on figure 11 to show the direction that oxygenated blood from the lungs takes through the heart. Do you think you can annotate on the screen and draw how is the blood going to pass from the lungs through the heart?
Yeah. Wouldn't it work if I just say it like it goes from A
All
to
right,
B
sure, go on.
and then
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I've sent it. I have sent it.
Right, all right. Let me take the right, that is correct. Now, they're saying that structures A, B, C, and D are valves. Which valves opens when the blood pressure in the right ventricle is greater than the blood pressure in the pulmonary artery? Which ventricle will open when the blood pressure in the right ventricle is greater? When is the blood pressure going to be greater? When the ventricle is about to contract, right? When all the blood has accumulated in the ventricle and the ventricle is about to contract so it can send the blood to the body. That is when the blood pressure in the ventricle is going to be the greatest. So, which valve will open when the blood pressure in the right ventricle is greater than the blood pressure in the pulmonary artery?
Open as in the way to like let the blood go.
Yes, to let the blood flow through. Yes.
D.
Yes, absolutely correct. The semilunar valves, right? They will allow the blood to go through. The AV valves are going to close. All right. Now they're saying figure 12 shows a healthy valve and a faulty valve. Describe two possible effects the faulty valve can have on the functioning of the heart.
Blood won't pass through.
Yes. Sort of correct. Yes. And
And the blood will like go back, like backflow. There will be backflow of the blood.
right. Basically, because this is clearly you can see this is a leaky valve. I told you there are two types of faulty valves that we can have. We can have your valve that is stiffened and a valve that is leaky. So this is clearly leaky because even closed, it's still a bit open. So what is going to happen that number one, when the ventricle is going to contract, right? There is going to be backflow of blood. So the blood is going to flow backwards, for example, into the atrium or wherever the valve is, whatever valve we're talking about, it's going to flow backwards. The blood is going to flow backwards. That is the first thing. The second thing is that because the blood is going to flow backwards, so the blood going to the rest of the body, there's not going to be enough blood going to the rest of the body. So this is what a leaky valve looks like. Now, explain why a person with a faulty heart valve can feel very tired. This is the reason. Because if you have a faulty valve, what is going to happen? That when the heart is going to contract, there is not going to be enough blood going to the entire body. So the cells of the blood are not going to be getting enough oxygen. On top of that, because the body is not getting enough oxygen, so what is the body going to do? It's going to tell the heart, listen, amp up, work better, work faster, work harder. The body is not getting enough oxygen. So the heart is going to try to compensate and it's going to try to beat harder and it's going to try to beat faster, which again uses up the energy reserves. Now, since the heart is beating faster and the heart is beating harder, what is going to happen? That again, the problem is there. The valve is still leaky. So every time the ventricle or the heart will contract, the blood will keep on flowing backwards. So there is not going to be enough oxygen, enough oxygen reaching the cells of the body. And as a result, a person is going to be feeling very exhausted, very tired, very lethargic. Right? All clear?
Yes.
All right. Now, this question I'm giving to you as your book. All right. This is a question about mechanical valves and biological valves. Okay. So you have a doctor can replace a faulty heart valve with either a mechanical valve or a biological valve. Mechanical valves are made from artificial material and can last for 20 to 30 years. All right. All patients must take medication to prevent blood clots forming. Biological valves are made from animal tissues, but they will wear out in 10 to 15 years. A third of the patients may require medication to prevent blood clots forming. An operation is needed to replace the valve. During the operation, the patient's chest is open and the patient's blood goes through a bypass machine. In a new procedure, a biological valve is inserted inside the existing faulty valve. The valve is attached to a stent. The stent is inserted into a blood vessel in the leg and is pushed through the blood vessel to the heart. So, there are two methods, okay? One method is this, that uh, they open up the chest and the patient's blood goes through the bypass machine. Okay, so they open up the chest, they open up the body, they open up the heart, and then they place the valve inside it. The second thing they do is that instead of opening up the entire body, what they do is that they use the stent method, the atherosclerosis method that I taught you. They use a stent. So what they do is that they take the biological valve and they attach it to a stent. And then they insert the stent through the leg of the patient, through a blood vessel in the leg. They insert the stent through the leg of the patient and they send the valve to the patient's heart. And once the valve is in place, they will inflate, like I taught you, they will inflate the balloon. They will put the valve over there and they will remove it. Remove the camera, remove the wire, suture up the leg, all done. So the whole procedure is that you open up the chest, put the patient on a bypass machine, and then the bypass machine does the process of circulation. While you're working on the heart, the bypass machine circulates the blood for us. So the patient can stay alive. So that is the old method. And this is the newer method that you don't need to open up the chest. Just put the wire through the leg, take it all the way to the heart, insert it, you're all done. A 60-year-old patient has a faulty heart valve. The doctor recommends the new procedure. Evaluate the doctor's recommendation. So now you need to compare the old operation and the new operation. Okay? And keeping in mind the patient's age, keeping in mind the old operation and keeping an eye on the new operation. Whenever the question says evaluate, you need to assess both the pros and the cons, the good and the bad. So this is for 6 marks. So take this question as homework. You can write out the answer and send it to me whenever, and we can discuss the answer for this in the next class. Up to you. There's no stress, but take this as homework and please do attempt it. So you have to give me both. You have to give me the advantages of new procedure. What is the good thing about the new procedure? But what can possibly be bad about the new procedure as well? Evaluation always includes both good and bad. So you will take a look at both of them and you will talk about, especially also related to the age of the patient. All right?
Okay.
Okay. So I hope you've taken a screenshot.
Yes.
All right. Perfect. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and then stop it over here for today's one. Now, in our next class,